Welcome back. We're here with Isabella, who is an entrepreneur and a musician. Isabella, how are you?
I'm doing great, doing great. The energy has been good lately, so doing very good. How are you?
Doing good. Like you mentioned before, time flies. So it's really nice to have you on. And I know we scheduled this a couple months ago. So thank you for coming on the podcast. I appreciate it.
No, super excited. I've been looking forward to this interview, and like you said, I was like, it seems far away, but it happens like this. So
Yes,
super excited and ready to dive in.
perfect. So this first question is actually from your sister, Valentina. She wanted me to ask you, why did you choose to become a singer after graduating Wharton University?
Wow. Well, that's a surprise. I didn't know we had questions from the audience. I love this. Yeah. So basically, I mean, I don't think it was a choice. It was more of a calling. When I was studying in university, I had to take a pause, like a break during the time I was there. So I went back home, and when I was there, it was something that was inside of me that was telling me I had to do it. Like when since I was little, I always dreamed of making music, of singing, and I never truly dared to pursue it. I was just like, maybe this is just a dream in my head, and I didn't have the guts to do it. But when I came back during that time, it was like this energy that I hadn't felt before, and it naturally started to happen. Like it was not something that I woke up one day and said, okay, I'm gonna become a singer. It's something that gradually started to happen. I started like writing. I started learning how to produce us, like make a song, record myself, everything during, which funny enough was also during the pandemic. So I was basically at home, just learning. And after a period of time, obviously I had done already 2.5 years in university, and my dad, my family, everyone was telling me like, Isa, you have to finish, like you already started this. And part of me was also like, I don't like to leave things unfinished, and I felt I had to go back. So after I went back, I obviously finished my degree, but then after graduation, I was like, I want to continue, the path of music. It helped me in so many ways, which we'll probably discuss
Yeah.
in other questions. But yeah, like to sum it up, it was not something that I decided. It was a calling, and some things, sometimes life, takes you in directions that you didn't expect, but it happens.
Yes. And as a musician, what do you do to cultivate an environment that fosters creativity?
I love that question. Because I think that yeah, like you said, I think that creativity. Well, I think inspiration and things can spark out of everything. I think it's super important to cultivate that environment, like you said. I mean, for me, my home, my space is my sanctuary. So it's like I make it as welcoming, as comfortable, as clean as I can, because I think that really plays a role in how your mind is also, right? And so, everything, lights, candles, smells, just colors, everything that inspires me and that gives me a sense of like beauty. Like to me, beauty is like so much more than just physical beauty, right? It's like what you feel inside, what you see also in the outside world. So I think that for me, my space is just arranged in a way that whenever I come in, it's like, wow. I have a poster in my room that says, this must be the place. And so whenever I walk in, I read that, and I'm like, okay, this is like heaven for me. It's
Yeah.
like my safe space. I think safety also, like feeling safe in your space, allows you to create. So that's one. The other one is that I think I also have moments of like for me at least, exercising is a way for me to cultivate creativity, like getting in the flow in different areas that are not necessarily like music. Like sometimes when I'm working out, it's like I get into so much in the zone that I get ideas in my head, ideas for songs, ideas for art that I'm making for my music or content, whatever it is. So like trying to find moments of flow in different things, cooking, I don't know, just like walking outside. So things like that I think are like nurture my creativity. And lastly, I think that just I have like in my phone, in my desk, whatever, I have like a note section where I write down ideas or things that come up to me, and then whenever I'm feeling stuck, I come back to that and I have more ideas.
It always fascinates me when it comes to creativity in general, whatever that expression looks like, how it can be expressed and it can be, you can kind of feel it in every aspect of your life.
Mm.
Like you said, if you're cooking, if you're walking, if you're working out, like that creativity can then foster in whatever. And that's how kind of I am. Like when the podcast, like I'll be sleeping at 3 in the morning, and I bet you're probably the same way. I'll wake up and write questions. Just it just comes out of nowhere, and you're like this spontaneous creativity can be fostered. And I really like how you make an environment to make that possible. And it's all those little things. And what is that process like for you when it comes to creating a song that actually means something to you?
Okay, I love all the questions that you're asking. So for me, I always say this, and it's funny because every song is different. Like literally, like even if I try to pinpoint something, it's like I can't, because again, it's something that I mean, I admire. There's people and there are artists who like can sit down and write 5 songs in an hour, and they just pump out songs like if it was bread, which is nothing wrong with it. Like I admire them, but for me, it's like it's something that I kind of like invoke, and then it happens. It's like I many times it's like I am feeling something, and I'm like I literally tell myself I'm going to write a song. It's like I tell the universe like I'm gonna write a song about this, and I sometimes it doesn't happen until like a week later that randomly again I'm cooking, I'm working out, whatever it is, and I get an idea for a melody or for a phrase, whatever, and then from there start to build around it, right? So for some songs I'm in my sleep and a melody comes up, I record it on my phone, go back to bed, and then I open it up in the morning and try to create kind of like the story around it, depending on what the idea was. And sometimes it's a relationship, it's a feeling, it's something that I've wanted to say for a long time. That's like my personal songs. There's been other songs, that I've made more for fun or with other people. That's a different kind of process. That's more of a like, we have a theme or whatever, and then I'll sit down, and if I have an instrumental that they sent me, I will play it 1,000 times until like words start forming. Right now, for instance, I'm working on this kind of like a friend of mine has a podcast on Warpcast, like on Web3, and they want to create like their theme song for their podcast,
That's
and
cool.
they contacted me and my friend who's doing the instrumental, and I was writing it like last night, and I would play it like over and over and over and mumble words until words started forming, and melodies started coming out of me, I don't know from where. And that's how it happened. So I'm super open to any and all means on how I will make a song. I think there's no right or wrong way to do it. I think some songs happen faster than others. Some songs take longer. I mean, I've written a song in like one sitting. I've written songs in a year. Like I started a song and then didn't finish it until a year later. So yeah, there's no like formula. I just feel it and let the universe do its thing.
And where do you think this intuitive creativity comes from? Like where does it stem from, you think?
That's I think that's the big question. I even ask myself that. I'm like, I think it's an energy from whatever you believe in, God, the universe. I think all ideas, all art is like humans channeling that, channeling an energy from I don't know where. Because again, it's like a lot of basically for me, what the beauty of creating, it's like you make something that did not exist before, right? And how does that happen? Well, it starts in your head, but like where do those ideas come from? Well, obviously from things you've seen, experiences that you've lived through, feelings, whatever. But there has to be some kind of like bigger thing that's throwing everything at you, you know, like. So I mean, I think that's the great mystery, but that's what makes it special. It's like whenever I try to like create something, I'm like, okay, I want to tap into that energy to try to create the best thing I've created so far, and kind of like build on that every time I make something. And that's like the exciting part. It's like you can always create something better, and you don't know what you're gonna create. It's like that's the whole point.
Yeah. I think that's the question we're all asking is, that kind of stems into like where do we come from, what source, all that fun stuff.
Mhm.
And if you could be featured on one song from the past, what would that be?
Ah! Oh my goodness. Any song?
Yes.
Whew. Let me think. Let me think. Let me think. Let me think. Mm. I mean, there's so many. I would have to think, but I mean, definitely a song by, because my favorite. I don't know if you know this, but my favorite artist is Justin.
Yes, I saw that. Yes.
And I mean, I would love to be featured in the future in one of his songs, but if it was in the past, probably one of his songs. I love to be featured in one of his. I'm thinking on which one. I mean, I have a lot of favorites, but I would have to think on that. Let me think, and I'll get back to you on that one.
Perfect. And looking at the evolution of music from radio and CDs to now streaming and social media, where do you see the evolution of music going next?
Another great question. I mean, I think it's hard to, obviously like predict where we're going with music, but I think, that music has slowly lost its value in a lot of ways. Not only because there's so much music now being created and uploaded to streaming platforms, but also because I feel like before, I remember, I'm not like old or whatever, but even in when I was growing up, I remember being so excited to like collect a CD and buy it and like play it, and to me, like physically having it made me appreciate the artist so much more, made me appreciate the music there so much more. Like I would listen to all the songs in the album. It was more so of like an experience to experience a song and music and everything. And I think that has slowly been lost, again, with the ease of access to all music. And I think that a lot of times, like, people will go back to, in a way, basics, or like they're craving that connection, because again, like, songs are not just, it's not just music, right? Songs act like accompany us in good moments, in bad moments, in they remind us of people, of places, whatever. And so I think that slowly, again, I'm not 100% sure how, but we're going to start transitioning into a place where people are, again, tired of so much noise, and there's going to be different ways and new ways to experience music. And I think one of them is definitely like the aspect of Web3, and putting songs on the blockchain and allowing people to collect them, and owning a piece of it, or giving people special access for owning that song. I think all of that adds more value to a song, adds more value to the artist, and creates a deeper connection between the listener and the fan collector, however you want to call them. And so I think naturally we're going to start to see that. And also, in line with that, I think that in the past, the only way for an artist to make it was if they were signed by a label, if they were, but now I think we're going to start seeing a lot more independent artists kind of like carve their own path, create their own communities, and build their careers without necessarily having to have a label, but rather having different ways of monetizing their music, of connecting with their communities, and kind of like these micro like artists that are sustaining themselves, but that are creating their own worlds within the bigger music world.
Do you ever see us with the rise of technology and AI and all these technologies being more prevalent in society? Do you ever see the collection of art and the listing of art going backwards, more into CDs, more into physical things?
I mean, definitely. I think that, like the more these AI and robots take over, I think there's also going to be a craving for people to connect with real humans. I mean, there's no stopping it, like at this point it's going to happen. Eventually there's going to be a lot of AI music created, a lot of AI art being created already. It's happening. But again, I don't think it's going to like, wash away humans. I just think it's going to create different ways for humans to make their content stand out, or to, like you said, just go backwards maybe in a way, and do something that robots can't do, or that differentiates them from robots and from AI. And yeah, I definitely maybe see that happening.
And can you talk to us about why you decided to go with the artist name Losi?
Yes. So my name, for those of you who don't know, is Isabella, and my last name is Losada. And growing up in my school, my friends would call me Isa Losi, like short for Losada. And uh, eventually, like the Isa started falling off, and they would just call me Losi. Also, in my grade, where I was studying, we were five Isabellas, so there were five Isas. So everyone was like, we don't need another Isa. So they just kept calling me Losi, Losi, and everyone in my school, by the end of when I graduated, I was Losi. And when I started making music and everything, I mean, I thought it was kind of like a natural transition, and I like Losi. I identify with it. I think it's short. It's memorable. There's not another Losi in the industry yet, so that was good. And yeah.
And you also share on your social media and your content about your personal journey when it comes to food and some of the things you kind of dealt with in the eating disorder realm of things. What do you think was the cause of your eating disorder?
Oh, that's another interesting question. I mean, I cannot, I haven't yet, discovered the cause. I think it's probably going to be a mystery. There's no one to ask other than myself. But this also is something that started when I was very, very young. Like I was 13, and it lasted almost 11 years. So there's a very like fine blurred line in between. I was super super young, and it kind of like morphed into so many different things. But I will say that when I went back, so I had to stop university because of that, went back home. And while I was there, I before I had tried a lot of things. I had been in hospitals, like doctors, psychologists, everything. And I kept falling again. And when I was home and I started making music, I started to like heal, and it was not something that it was like, oh my God, I'm deciding that when I start making music, I'm gonna heal. No, it started happening like slowly. And personally, I think that one of the causes of my eating disorder was that I was hiding a part of me that I had always wanted to show, and when you're have that there, your mind, your body, looks for ways to hurt yourself or to disappear, make yourself smaller, because you want to do something and you're not letting yourself do it. So I think that was a huge part of it, because now, it's like I feel like music is always my how do I call this in English? It's like whenever you feel like you want to go back, you turn to that, and it's like your motivation per se,
Yeah.
or like, yeah, your thing that doesn't let you go backwards, and so I think that's one of the reasons, definitely.
And I feel like a lot of women in America, especially, struggle with this body dysmorphia, things of that nature, if that's from the media, if that's from the clothing brands, if that's from just society in general. What did you do to start learning how to love yourself for who you truly were?
Yeah, well, what's super interesting to me, again, like this started when I was super young, and I never it was something that I felt was unconscious in a way, because I never felt like I hated myself or I didn't like my body. It was such a weird, like, I didn't I didn't feel it, but I was acting as if I did, because I was hurting myself. I was unhealthy. I was in many, many ways like not living and as I should be. Um, but then again, I know I've seen, these things on social media and the constant pressure and everything. And I think that the thing that to me has helped me the most and is, I think it's so important to pay attention to our thoughts and our, like, subconscious things that we tell our mind. Because I think that it's easy to, not realize that in our heads we're saying bad things about ourselves, but things about our bodies, but things about whatever it is. And that is like what generates that bad image when you look in the mirror, when how you feel when you wake up, all of those things. I think that, yeah, just like I'm a firm believer that everything starts in our heads, and the more conscious we are of how we speak to our minds, the more conscious we are of what things are in our heads when we're not paying attention, because the mind is always thinking, the mind is always saying. And I think, being conscious of that is what truly makes the difference, because nobody, no, like, even if 100,000 people tell you you're beautiful, you're amazing, you're the best, by your head and in your mind you're not saying that to yourself, you're not gonna believe it. And n- nobody and no one can change that. It's you, and it's inside, and it all starts here. So I think that just really, really going deep into trying to understand your thought patterns, trying to understand how your mind operates, what triggers you, what makes you, want to do things or not want to do things, is going to save you. Yes.
Yeah, that journey of mental health and self-awareness and all of those type of things is it's a very interesting one, because in America, as you know, it's very taboo. It's very
Mm.
like, don't talk about your feelings, just act like we don't have bad feelings. Everyone's doing amazing. Everyone's doing good. Um, don't embrace your feelings, just live your life and keep them personal. And I definitely think that makes, and I know it definitely made me feel very alone, of like, damn, I'm the only one that's struggling with this. And then when you realize, like, holy shit, so many other people are struggling with it. I'm not alone.
Mm.
Um, I think it's very, very, I just think the whole mental health industry in America, especially, is destroying people.
Yeah, no, and I mean, I think it also even starts with the like, for me at least, growing up, I think one of the hardest things, and another thing that I think like prevented me from healing, is that, to me, the word kind of like, you have a mental disease or a mental disorder, because like an eating disorder is something, it's a mental health disorder. And to me, that word, that label, just, I couldn't accept it. It's like, I said, I'm not mentally ill. It's like, you're calling me crazy, and I am not.
Yes,
And so, since I didn't accept I had something, there was nothing to fix, because like I didn't accept I had anything. But then, when I started all this process, it's like, you first have to admit you have something to be able to fix it and to be able to start your healing journey, right? And it's, again, so taboo, like mental disorders, mental health, and there's so much that is not understood yet, because honestly, like, mental disease, like, until recently, they weren't, they were very much like, if you have a mental disorder, you need to be in an asylum, or like somewhere where, whatever, you're crazy. Now we're starting to see that it's not like that, right? Like, the mind is another organ in the body, and it like, like any other organ, it can catch a disease and it can be unhealthy. And that's what it is. It's just like, you just have to understand that it's okay, and that, like you said, so many other people are experiencing things like that. And the faster we realize that, the less alone and the easier it's going to be to heal.
absolutely. I have two more questions for you. There's a quote on your Instagram from October 9th of 2021. It says, "It's funny how things change when life gets in the way." What does that mean to you?
Ah! I recognize this quote very much. This is a lyric from a song of mine, and it was the second song I wrote. And to me, that song means that sometimes, like, so many things are out of our control, and it's not that anything bad happened or anything in particular like made us want to do something, but just things again out of our control happened and changed the course of our paths, and yeah, life changes and sometimes you cannot do anything about it, and you just gotta, accept it and flow with it, and figure out why later on it happened, and how it led you to where you'll go. But it is, to me, very funny how things change when life gets in
Yes.
the way.
And most of the time, that plan that you thought was a grand plan is actually a very small plan compared to what God or the universe has for you, which I always find very interesting, especially when negative things turn into good things.
Exactly, I'm a firm believer.
I have one more question for you. If you could have dinner with two people, one person from the past
Hmm.
and one person from the present, who would it be and why?
Yes, okay, so from the past, definitely Steve Jobs. I've always been fascinated by his mind, the everything he created, and I think he is someone who like changed the course of history in many ways, and I would love to just understand how he thought about things, and learn more about his motivations, his whatever, his plans for the future. Maybe I could have, gathered some ideas and implement them. Definitely that would be from the past. And then if I could have one conversation from someone in the present, I would say, let me think about that, because I don't, I have a lot of leaders I want to talk to. I know who I want to have then. So there's this doctor called Joe Dispenza. Sorry, not Joe Dispenza. Wait, Joe Dispenza is also oh my god. I am blanking out on his name. It's not Joe. I mean Joe, I would love to have a conversation with Joe Dispenza, but the guy I'm speaking about, he has this, like, I think the biggest, like, mental, like, not mental, but like health clinic about mental health, and all these kinds of issues in the US. He's a doctor of many great people, and he talks a lot about these disorders, even like um eating disorders and everything. And when I was like in my healing journey, I listened to a lot of his talks. I read a lot about his findings about how the mind works, what makes you, get sick, not get sick, everything. And I've always wanted to go to that hospital and get an MRI, because they also like scan your brain and tell you like which parts are not functioning, like what's, because like a brain of a person with an eating disorder and with depression, with any other mental health, is very different, like in the terms of matter, than a normal brain. So I've always been super curious to like learn more about my brain and how everything works and everything, and I would love to sit down with him and just talk to him about my story and ask him the questions I don't have answers to. But I'm blanking on his name. He's super famous. He's super famous. It's not Joe Dispenza. Is Doctor? I've Okay. If I if
We
I
can get
go.
it after. I can get it out. I can grab it.
Oh, I'm here back. Okay. I'll send you the name and you
Yeah,
can
yeah.
put it in
Yes.
the conversation, but the name is.
Yes.
Okay.
Perfect. Awesome. That's what the questions I have, Isabella. What do you want to leave people with? And how can people find you?
Okay. Well, first of all, Ethan, thank you so much for the
Of course.
conversation. Loved all the questions. And I mean, to me, I think that what I want to leave people with is that I think in life, the most important thing is to get to know yourself, and to truly kind of like understand who you are, what drives you, how you want to see and experience life, what you want to give to the world. Because I think finding that purpose and that reason for being is what makes us truly like live at peace. I wouldn't say happy, because I think happy is an up and down thing, and it is influenced by so many things. But finding kind of like that serenity in your heart is only achieved through getting to know yourself. And so I would say, like, really invest the time into getting to know yourself, and be kind always to anyone and everyone. You never know who's fighting a tough battle. And in terms of where people can find me, I mean, in almost all of my socials except for Instagram, it's at I am Losi. So on X, on TikTok, it's at I am Losi underscore, but anywhere else at I am Losi. And on Instagram, it's my real name, Isabella Losada. Although if you search Losi, you also find me. So that's it.
Perfect. Well, awesome. And before we end it, just stay on like after we end it. But thanks for coming on. I appreciate it. Great conversation, Isabella. And again, always love to connect with you. So thank you.
Thank you, Houston.